Hello. Okay. Today I am going to talk about a little bit more about living in the country once you get there and everything. If you live in a country where you don't speak the language completely fluently, or at least almost fluently, if you are even intermediate, this applies to you. And if you're less than intermediate, it definitely applies to you. Um, let's see. Okay, number one. You are, and this is probably the most important thing to think about. Um, if you are only intermediate or less, you are going to be dealing with people all the time who think that you're stupid, and and you have to live with that. And there's no getting around it because, as I say, it takes a long time for people to get that someone could be extremely intelligent and talking like a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old even. It's really hard to overcome that block in your mind that somebody could be really intelligent and sound like a 2-year-old. So you're going to have to live with that, and it's really hard. It's really, I can't even tell you. There are so many times I just think, I've had so many experiences of just being completely humiliated. Um, and it's really overwhelming because if you put yourself on the line and you try really hard and somebody laughs at you, it's almost like you feel like you're a teenager again, or a little kid who's just been embarrassed. It's this gut wrenching, I can't do, like I can't live with this sort of, all these humiliated experiences of constantly trying and putting myself on the line and really, giving it my all, and then having somebody just, think I'm a complete idiot. But it happens. It doesn't happen every day, and you do get so many patient people, you get lots of kind people. But, it is something that you're going to have to face and that you're going to come up against. And you're going to doubt yourself a lot, and you're going to feel like you're an idiot, even when, it has nothing to do with actuality or anything. But there you have it. It also means that if you're intermediate or less, that you are going to be on the fringe of society for, a long time until you get to fluency. Because you're not going to be able to interact with people really. You might get some really patient people, but it gets really old being the person that somebody has to be patient with just to have coffee with. That has to, I teach English, and I know it's hard to talk to somebody and to take all your time and to let them try really hard to get one sentence out, or to have a conversation in depth. It's just really difficult. So, I mean, it does mean that you're going to be on the outside of society for a while, and that's the life of a foreigner, really, until you get in and can get yourself established. You just have to be on the outer circle of things. But I will say this for that: I think if you come with somebody, if you come with your spouse or your family, I think it makes you closer to them because. Even if it's just subconsciously, when you come home, you're suddenly completely relaxed because you don't have to try so hard with your spouse or with your kids. You don't have to make lots of effort to talk with them, and I think even if it's just subconsciously, you're getting a bond with them that you wouldn't have otherwise. And maybe that's just my experience, but I think Dorian is my best friend here, and he's the only friend that I have, because he's the only person I can really talk to. So I think in some ways it can be a really positive thing if you're looking to start over, or if you're looking for some new depth to your relationship. Great, because you're definitely gonna get to some new things if you move abroad, and new things with your spouse, new things with your family. So. Um, Next one is about finding friends. When you move abroad, or maybe in general when you move anywhere, it's almost like you have this friend radar going on. So you're really, anytime somebody even approaches you or is chatty with you or whatever, you're thinking the whole time, could this be my friend? I don't know. Could I be friends with this person? Maybe. Which would not be the case if you had been living in an area for like 20 years. You're not, necessarily going to be looking for friends. But you get this oversensitivity to finding new people and meeting new people, which is great and it's fine. But I would say, first of all, don't think that just because somebody speaks English that you're instantly going to be their best friend, because that happens to a lot of people. A lot of people meet somebody that's American or English or something, and they think, oh, I can talk with them, and you get this, like a relaxing of whatever, because you don't have to think, and so suddenly you think you're going to be great friends, and then it sort of fizzles out after a while, or you're like, well, they're not really my best friend, fine. But, you have to sort of think about it this way. You're not friends with everybody in America just because they're American. So you're not just naturally going to be best friends with somebody just because they're American. But it will feel like that right off. Sometimes you'll just think, oh, I found my friend. But then, you might not click or something, and that's totally fine. And another point is that you need to learn your culture a little bit. Because you might be in a warm culture where you get people who are super friendly right off, and you think, oh, these people are so helpful, they're so generous, that this is going to be great, they're going to really be great friends to have or whatever, and I really like them. And then they might suddenly, just drop you like a hot potato. But that can be really common, especially like in Italy. Like we've had that several times where people have been really, really generous, and then we never heard from them again, sort of thing. When we thought, oh great, well we can be friends with this person, we really like them or whatever, and then it turned out, they weren't really interested in being a friend. And it's kind of confusing, but that's the way it is. In colder cultures, though, people might be really standoffish at first, and then warm up to you over time. So it's good to know like those sorts of things and what you're going to encounter, and not put too much into first encounters and finding friends until you get used to it, until you figure out how are people here, what are they like. How do people normally, how long does it take normally to make a friend if I were German, or whatever. As far as the language goes, I would say there is a big part of language that's usually not taught, and I'm not really sure why. And I've had loads of, I took Spanish, though it's completely gone now. I took Spanish in high school and in college, and I don't know if I ever really had anybody say this, but a lot of language learning is just situational. Like, for example, if you go to the grocery store and somebody says something to you and you're like, I have no idea what they're asking. After a while, you'll figure out, oh, they mean like the discount card. And you start learning things based on what should they be asking me right now. And so even when you don't hear it, oh, they're asking me if I have my discount card, they're asking me if I want a stack, etc. So a lot of language learning is just situational, and you just learn by hearing things over and over and over again. And sometimes you don't even really get, you get this, and I think it's a good thing when you start understanding things without being able to translate them, because you just think, well, we don't really have anything like that, or we don't say that. I think that's a really good place to be in a language, because there's loads of things in language that aren't going to translate, or they're not going to translate very well, because you just think, well, we wouldn't, because you're thinking in situations, and you're thinking, well, they say it when this happens or when that happens, but they don't say it when that happens, so it doesn't really work in English or whatever. That's a really good place to be at in language. And those are the things that you need to be looking out for in your daily life when you go to the store, when you go here and there. What do they call the thing that you use? Blah, blah, blah. So look out for that. And another thing is to preempt that, because after a while it's really good to think they're going to ask me for this, this, and this, and to be ready for it. That way you're not like thrown off. And it's a really good thing it's a really good way to learn language, and it's a good thing to keep in mind that a lot of it's not vocabulary, a lot of it's not studying grammar, etc. A lot of it is learning by the situations that you're in, and that's how you learned, your first language was by situations. You didn't have anything else to connect it to. You didn't have any other concepts or anything in your mind already. So try to keep that in mind while you're learning the language. Okay. When you're in the country, it's very much like a roller coaster ride with having conversations in a different language if you're intermediate or below, and it maybe even with if you're more fluent than that. I'm not sure yet because I'm not there yet, but I would say there are going to be times when you have you feel really good. You're like, oh, I understood that. And I sounded, I probably sounded really stupid, but I said what I needed to say. They understood me. Everything, worked out, and you feel great about it. But then the next day you'll go and you'll have this awful conversation. You'll think, I did not understand anything they said, and I couldn't speak. My speaking was like, and they didn't even understand me. So it's really up and down, and it can feel all over the place. And I would say just not to take it too much to heart. If you have a great conversation, great, feel great about it. But don't think that it means suddenly that you're just going to rock it off and never have a bad conversation again, or never misunderstand something. And on the other side of that, if you have a bad conversation, it's just a bad day. Some days you just have bad days with the language, and you just need to accept that. Some days, for some reason, it's harder. You're going to be like, why don't I understand anything today? Why can't I say anything today? But it just happens. Just get through the day and know that, tomorrow will probably be better. So I would say just work to find your middle ground with knowing that it is up and down. But generally, unless you just stop, which can happen, oddly, especially if you're doing something like teaching English. Unless you just stop learning the language altogether, you're still going to be making progress because you're in the country, you're seeing it everywhere, you're hearing it everywhere. And even if you have a bad day, it's still better than it was, a year ago or something. Just keep thinking like that. Be positive. Okay, and that is that for today. Bye!